Commander Jack Martinez stood at attention on the bridge of Earth's flagship vessel, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of a holographic display. This wasn't how he had imagined humanity's first contact with alien life. Instead of wonder and celebration, tension filled the air as the massive hegemony ship loomed before them, dwarfing the pride of Earth's fleet. "They're hailing us again, sir," Lieutenant Lisa Winters reported, her fingers dancing across the communications panel. "Same message as before." Jack nodded, squaring his shoulders. "Put them through." The holographic display flickered, revealing the imposing figure of High Chancellor Zorthak. The alien's four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of impatience Jack had quickly learned to recognize during their 3 days of negotiations. "Humanity's representative," Zorthak began, his translator conveying his deep, rumbling voice. "The Galactic hegemony has deliberated on your petition for recognition. We have governed the stars for 10,000 years, guiding 27 species to enlightenment. Your species is primitive by our standards." Jack maintained his diplomatic smile, though his jaw tightened. Behind him, he heard the quiet murmurs of his crew. "However," Zorthak continued, "we offer limited diplomatic relations. Your species will be permitted restricted travel within designated sectors. Technology exchanges will be carefully monitored. Earth will remain under observation for signs of advancement." "The people of Earth thank the hegemony for their consideration," Jack replied, the practiced words feeling hollow. "We look forward to learning from your wisdom." The transmission ended, and Jack's shoulders slumped slightly. "They're treating us like children," said Navigation Officer Ben Harris, voicing what everyone felt. Jack turned to his crew. "That's exactly what they want us to think. Keep monitoring their vessels. Something doesn't feel right about this whole arrangement." Later that night, while most of the crew slept, Lisa Winters remained at her station, her curiosity getting the better of her. The hegemony communications used encryption that Earth systems shouldn't be able to break. Yet something in their patterns had caught her attention. "Computer, run pattern analysis on frequencies 327 through 455, she whispered. The screen before her flashed with data streams. Most remained encrypted, but fragments began emerging as readable text. Human biology, unusual adaptability, potential, threat, containment recommended. Lisa's breath caught. She downloaded the fragments to a secure drive and hurried to the commander's quarters. Jack was reviewing first contact protocols when his door chimed. When Lisa entered, her face pale, he knew something was wrong. "Sir, I've intercepted hegemony communications. They're not being honest with us." Jack examined the data, his expression darkening. "They're afraid of us," he said finally. "But why? Their technology is centuries beyond ours." Jack walked to the viewport, gazing at the stars and the massive hegemony ship that blocked part of the view. "Earth's history is unique, Lisa. We evolved on a death world by their standards. Our planet has extreme temperature variations, natural disasters, countless predators. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and our own destructive tendencies. We're adaptable in ways they might not understand." Lisa joined him at the window. "They're talking about containment strategies. What does that mean for Earth?" "It means we need to be prepared," Jack said gravely. "Start a secure channel to Earth Command. Download everything we've learned about their technology, tactics, ship configurations. If they're planning something, we won't be caught off guard." As they worked through the night, more hegemony vessels arrived, taking positions around Earth's solar system. They claimed these were diplomatic escorts, but Jack recognized a blockade when he saw one. On Earth, scientists and engineers secretly began incorporating observed hegemony technology into new defensive systems. Military leaders prepared contingency plans. Politicians maintained friendly diplomatic relations. 3 years later, when the hegemony finally showed their true intentions, humanity would be ready for a fight that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Captain Sam Reeves of the USS Dauntless couldn't believe his eyes. The red planet Mars, home to New Houston and nearly 6 million human colonists, was under attack. Brilliant flashes of light erupted across the surface as hegemony warships unleashed their fury from orbit. "Get me Earth Command now," Sam shouted, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of his command chair. "Communications are being jammed, sir," Olivia Garcia reported, her fingers working frantically across her console. "Wait, I'm intercepting hegemony transmissions." The bridge fell silent as Olivia patched the alien communication through the speakers. "Containment protocol initiated. Human expansion has exceeded acceptable parameters. Reduction of population. Centers authorized. Resistance is expected but will be minimal." Sam's blood ran cold. "They're hitting Europa too," said the tactical officer, pointing to the long-range sensors showing similar attacks on the Jupiter moon colony. "This is it," Sam said quietly. "The betrayal Admiral Martinez warned us about. 3 years of uneasy. Peace with the galactic hegemony had just erupted into war, without warning or formal declaration, but Earth hadn't been idle during those years. "Sir," Olivia called out, "I've broken through the jamming. Earth Command is implementing scorched stars." A grim smile crossed Sam's face. "About time. Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. Maneuvers." Back on Earth, Admiral William Foster stood in the hidden command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by military leaders from every nation. The massive screen before them displayed the simultaneous attacks on Mars and Europa. "They think we've been sitting on our hands for 3 years, William said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Activate the orbital defense grid." Engineer Peter Collins sat at the primary defense console entering his authorization code. Around Earth, seemingly innocent satellites and space stations suddenly transformed, revealing advanced weapons systems, reverse-engineered from hegemony technology. "Grid online, Admiral," Peter reported, "targeting hegemony vessels." The first hegemony warship approaching Earth exploded as unexpected energy beams tore through its shields. The alien fleet paused in confusion. "They didn't expect us to adapt their technology so quickly," William observed. "Launch our fleet." Hidden bases on the moon opened, releasing hundreds of Earth ships. Though smaller than the hegemony vessels, they moved with surprising speed and agility. On Mars, the situation was dire. New Houston's protective dome had been breached and colonists fought desperately for survival. A hegemony ground force had landed, expecting easy conquest. Instead, they found humans who refused to surrender. Colony Security Chief Rachel Martinez led civilians armed with mining tools and improvised weapons in an ambush against the alien soldiers. "Don't let them reach the habitat core," Rachel shouted, firing her weapon at the advancing enemy. "Every minute we hold them here gives more people time to reach the emergency bunkers." The hegemony forces were shocked by the ferocity of human resistance. Their reports back to their command were filled with confusion. "The humans are fighting with primitive weapons. They should be surrendering, not charging our lines. Request immediate reinforcement." In space, the USS Dauntless joined a growing human counterattack. Captain Sam ordered his ship into the heart of the hegemony formation. "Their ships are designed for long-range combat," he told his crew. "Get in close where their weapons can't. Track us effectively." The smaller human vessels darted between massive alien warships, delivering precise strikes against vulnerable points identified during years of careful observation. On Earth, governments worldwide declared a state of emergency. The United Earth Defense Council, formed in secret after first contact, now took official control of the war effort. "We expected this day might come," President Laura Mitchell announced to a frightened world. "But humanity will not bow to intimidation or aggression. We have prepared. We will fight. And despite the hegemony's technological advantage, we will show them why they should have feared us from the beginning." Major Nicole Johnson moved silently through the shadowy corridors of the hegemony command vessel, her specialized stealth suit bending light around her body. 4 soldiers from her elite infiltration team followed close behind. Nearly invisible, in the dim emergency lighting, the ship's alarms had been triggered, but not because of them, because of what was happening outside. "Status report," Nicole whispered into her comm unit. "Distraction is working perfectly, Major," came the calm voice of Lieutenant Greg Daniels from their hidden shuttle. "Earth fleet has engaged the hegemony's main force. They have no idea you're aboard their command ship." Nicole smiled grimly. 6 weeks into the war, and humanity was already rewriting the rules of engagement. The hegemony had expected humans to fight conventionally, ship against ship in open space. They never anticipated guerrilla tactics applied to space warfare. "We've reached the central data core," Nicole reported as they arrived at a massive door covered in alien symbols. "Beginning access sequence." Corporal Andy Miller, their tech specialist, attached a small device to the door's control panel. The device had been designed by scientist Alan Murphy based on stolen hegemony technology. It pulsed once and the massive door slid open. 30 minutes until they traced the override, Andy warned. Inside, towering data servers hummed with energy. The team moved quickly, placing quantum disruption devices at key points throughout the room. These experimental weapons were humanity's newest secret, technology that the hegemony didn't know Earth possessed. "They still think we're primitives," Nicole said as she activated the final device. "That's their biggest mistake." Meanwhile, at the Battle of Titan, Captain Daniel Stewart watched from the bridge of the USS Valiant as Earth ships executed maneuvers that confused the hegemony fleet. Humans had studied the aliens' battle doctrines for 3 years and knew they relied on rigid, predictable formations. "They can't adapt fast enough," Daniel observed, as his ship dove beneath a hegemony cruiser, targeting its vulnerable engine section with precision strikes. "Their tactical doctrine hasn't changed in centuries." "Sir," called out his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from an unknown vessel. They identify as Arxian." Daniel raised an eyebrow. The Arxians were a hegemony member, species known for their neutrality in conflicts put them through. A slender, gray-skinned alien appeared on screen. "Captain Stewart, I am Representative Kale of the Arxian Diplomatic Corps. I come with warning. The hegemony has severely underestimated your species." "That much is obvious," Daniel replied as his ship rocked from a distant explosion. "You don't understand," the Arxian continued. "I have seen their war council. They plan to deploy planet killers against Earth itself. They fear what you might become." Daniel's expression hardened. "When?" "3 of your days. But there is dissent among the council. Many believe this war was unjustified." Back on the hegemony, command vessel Nicole's team had completed their mission and was retreating to their extraction point when they encountered resistance. A squad of hegemony security forces blocked their path. "So much for stealth," Nicole muttered, drawing her weapon. Plan B. Earth forces had discovered that despite their technological advantages, hegemony soldiers were unprepared for close combat. Humans had spent their entire history fighting each other, developing combat skills that shocked the aliens. Nicole moved with deadly efficiency, disabling 3 guards before they could react. Her team followed her example, overwhelmed the remaining forces, and continued their escape. "Quantum disruptors are armed and counting down," she reported as they reached their shuttle. Extraction successful. Hours later, as the Battle of Titan reached its climax, the hegemony command vessel suddenly went dark. Its systems failed catastrophically as the quantum disruptors activated, corrupting their entire command network. Without coordination, the hegemony fleet fell into disarray. Earth ships pressed their advantage, securing humanity's first major victory of the war. In his war room, Admiral William Foster received the news with quiet satisfaction. "Now they know," he said to his officers. "This isn't just about technology. It's about will, and humans will never surrender." Captain Daniel Stewart stood on the observation deck of the former hegemony outpost, now repurposed as forward base, Alpha. Through the reinforced viewport, he watched Earth vessels docking alongside ships bearing markings from 3 different alien species, former hegemony members who had defected to the human cause. "3 months ago, they thought they could wipe us out in a week," said a voice behind him. Daniel turned to see communications specialist Kate Wilson approaching with a data tablet. Her broadcast system, cobbled together from salvaged hegemony technology, had become humanity's most effective propaganda weapon. "Your latest transmission reached 18 systems," Daniel said. "The hegemony is scrambling to block it." Kate smiled. "They can't. Dr. Laura Bennett adapted their own technology against them. We're broadcasting on frequencies they considered theoretically impossible to access. The message Kate had sent throughout hegemony space was simple: footage of human victories, evidence of hegemony war crimes, and a promise of freedom to any species that chose to stand with Earth. The response had been overwhelming. The Trallians have formally withdrawn from the hegemony, Kate reported. That's the fifth species to either join us or declare neutrality. Across the solar system, the war had transformed into something the hegemony never expected: a resistance movement that spread like wildfire. In the asteroid belt, Major Ryan Phillips led a specialized strike force that operated out of hidden bases built into hollowed-out asteroids. His ships, smaller and more maneuverable than standard Earth vessels, specialized in lightning raids against hegemony supply lines. Hit and run, Ryan explained to his pilots before their latest mission. They still think in terms of large-scale, fleet engagements. They position their defenses accordingly, leaving these supply routes vulnerable. The hegemony's rigid military structure was proving to be its greatest weakness. Their commanders couldn't adapt to human unpredictability, and their 10,000-year domination of space had made them complacent. On Earth's moon, Chief Engineer Susan Morgan supervised a team of human and alien scientists working to combine technologies in ways the hegemony had never attempted. Their species evolved separately, Susan explained to visiting Admiral Foster. The hegemony kept them deliberately compartmentalized, limiting cooperation. We're breaking down those barriers. She gestured toward a prototype ship in the lunar construction bay. It combined Trallian shield technology, Earth's unconventional propulsion systems, and weapons based on Arxian energy principles. It's ugly as sin, Susan admitted, but it's twice as effective as anything currently in space. The Admiral nodded approvingly. How soon can we deploy? 2 weeks for the first squadron. Not all news was positive, however. In a secure briefing, Room Dr. Laura Bennett reported troubling findings to Earth's military leadership. They're changing tactics, she explained, her expression grim. I've detected communication suggesting the hegemony has authorized full-scale planetary assaults against human outposts. They wouldn't, Admiral Foster objected. Their own ethical protocols forbid. Their protocols are being revised, Laura interrupted. They're calling it extraordinary measures for extraordinary threats. They're afraid, Admiral. The fear was spreading throughout hegemony space. On their capital world, High Commander Zorthak faced growing opposition from the Council of Species. This war was initiated without proper consideration, argued the Paxian representative. Humans have shown technological adaptation capabilities beyond our projections. 3 of our core worlds now face food shortages due to disrupted supply lines. The alternative is worse, Zorthak insisted. If we allow humans to expand unchecked, they will eventually dominate all of us. Their evolution on a high-gravity death world has created a species unlike any we've encountered. Back in Earth space, Kate Wilson discovered a weakness in hegemony communications that allowed her to listen in on these very debates. They're fracturing from within, she told Captain Daniel. Half their leadership wants to escalate the war. The other half is beginning to question whether they can win at all. Daniel looked out at the growing fleet of Alliance ships. Then, we push harder. We need to force them to make a choice: end this war or watch their empire crumble. Colonel Ryan Phillips stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiance, watching as his hybrid fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Procyon system. 6 months into the war, humanity had pushed beyond the solar system, bringing the fight directly to hegemony-controlled worlds. Status report, Ryan ordered, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. Hegemony Defense Fleet is scrambling, his second-in-command reported. They didn't expect us to reach this far into their territory. Their communications indicate they're calling for reinforcements. Ryan nodded grimly. They won't arrive in time. Begin deployment. Execute Battle Plan Theta. The human fleet split into 3 distinct formations, a tactic that hegemony commanders consistently failed to counter effectively. While alien military doctrine emphasized concentration of force, humans had perfected the art of coordinated multi-vector attacks. "Sir," called out the sensor operator, detecting unusual energy readings from the largest hegemony vessel. Ryan's expression darkened. Intelligence reports had warned about this. All ships evasive pattern Delta, they're deploying a planet killer. At that moment, across the vast expanse of space, the hegemony High Command was in turmoil. High Commander Zorthak faced open rebellion from several council members. You deployed a stellar eradicator against New Eden Colony without council authorization, accused the Trillian representative. 3 million civilians, humans and member species alike, perished. Extreme measures are necessary, Zorthak insisted. The humans adapt too quickly. They're capturing our technology, improving it, and turning it against us. They've already reached 8 of our systems. Because you escalated this conflict beyond reason, countered another counselor. Their original expansion was limited to their own system. Now they fight because we gave them no choice. Back in the Procyon system, the battle raged. The hegemony planet killer weapon, a device capable of destabilizing a planet's core, charged its main emitter. However, Chief Engineer Susan Morgan's modifications to the human fleet's shields were about to be tested. Quantum dispersal field activated, reported Lieutenant Frank Wilson. If Dr. Morgan's calculations are correct, this should work. The planet killer fired, its devastating beam striking the lead human vessel. But instead of destruction, the energy scattered, reflected back along its origin path. The hegemony vessel's own shields failed under the redirected force. Ryan allowed himself a small smile. Target their weapon systems, disable, don't destroy. On Earth, a different kind of battle was being fought. Communications specialist Kate Wilson had expanded her propaganda network, broadcasting footage of the destroyed human colony, alongside evidence of growing hegemony atrocities. The transmission is reaching even their core worlds now, Kate explained, to Admiral Foster. Their civilian populations are seeing what their military is doing in their name. The Admiral nodded. Keep broadcasting. Their empire has stood for 10,000 years on the promise of stability and enlightened leadership. Show their people the truth. The psychological impact was becoming as important as the military campaign. Throughout hegemony space, the phrase, "humans are coming," had begun spreading, creating panic among civilian populations who had never experienced war. On numerous worlds, demands for peace negotiations grew louder. 8 more species formally withdrew from the hegemony, seeking neutrality or alliance with Earth. High Commander Zorthak, increasingly isolated, ordered his remaining loyal forces to fall back to core hegemony worlds. We will consolidate our strength, he insisted to his generals. The humans have extended themselves too far. They cannot maintain such an aggressive expansion. His senior military advisor looked skeptical. Sir, our psychological analysis of humans suggests retreat will only encourage them. They interpret it as weakness. Then what do you suggest? Zorthak demanded. Many of our frontline commanders have already given their troops unofficial orders regarding humans, the advisor admitted reluctantly. What orders? If humans attack in force, run. Zorthak stared in disbelief. 10,000 years of hegemony dominance and his military was advising retreat before a species that had only achieved space travel a few centuries ago. This cannot stand, he declared. Prepare our final defensive line. We will use every weapon at our disposal, authorized or not. Humanity must be contained, whatever the cost. Lieutenant Commander Eric Johnson knew this would be his final mission. The battle for Proxima Centauri had raged for 3 days, and Earth forces were pinned down by the massive hegemony flagship Eternal Dominion. The vessel was twice the size of anything humans had encountered before, with defensive capabilities that made conventional attacks useless. Admiral Russell, this is Johnson, he said into his comm unit, voice steady despite what he was about to propose. Request permission to execute Operation Nightfall. There was a long pause before Admiral Diane Russell's voice came through. Are you certain, Eric? There's no coming back from this. The Dominion's shields are impenetrable from the outside, Eric replied, watching the massive ship through his viewport, but not from within. My ship can get through their defensive screen while they're focused on our main fleet. Permission granted, Diane said softly. Godspeed, Commander. Eric took a deep breath and addressed his small crew. This mission is now volunteer only. Anyone who wishes to evacuate to the escape pods has my blessing. Not a single crew member moved. Navigator Julia Roberts smiled grimly. We're with you, Commander. All the way. Eric nodded, throat tight with emotion. Helm, set course directly. For their main reactor. Maximum speed on my mark. Across the battlefield, Admiral Diane Russell watched from her command ship as Eric's vessel, the Swift Justice, suddenly broke formation and accelerated toward the Hegemony flagship. Her tactical officer gasped as he realized what was happening. He's going to ram them. All ships focus fire on the Dominion's forward batteries, Diane ordered. Give the Swift Justice a clear path. The human fleet executed a complex three-dimensional attack pattern that Diane had developed specifically for this battle. While Hegemony commanders thought in terms of flat, two-dimensional space, humans brought their experience from naval warfare on Earth, utilizing depth and height to create confusion. The Swift Justice slipped through a gap in the defensive screen, taking heavy damage but maintaining its course. Eric's ship struck the Hegemony flagship at nearly light speed, penetrating its hull before detonating its modified fusion drive. The resulting explosion tore the Eternal Dominion apart from within. The symbol of Hegemony power in this sector vanished in a blinding flash. All ships advance, Diane ordered, her voice steady despite the sacrifice she had just witnessed. Don't give them time to regroup. On a nearby Hegemony vessel, panic spread among the commanding officers. The Dominion is gone. How is this possible? Demanded the ship's captain. Humans are using suicide tactics, his second-in-command replied in horror. Our doctrine has no counter for an enemy willing to sacrifice themselves deliberately. Back on Earth, scientist Paul Harris presented his latest breakthrough to the United Earth Defense Council. His laboratory had been studying the unique microbiome of Earth, the countless bacteria, fungi, and viruses that had evolved alongside humans. Hegemony environmental systems are designed to create sterile conditions, Paul explained. Their species never developed the immune responses that humans take for granted. This makes them vulnerable. He displayed a model of a modified Earth microorganism. This will disable their life support systems without harming any living creatures. Their ships will be intact but inoperable. Council Chairwoman Linda Patel considered this. Deploy it at Proxima Centauri. If it works, we may have found a way to end this war without further bloodshed. As the Battle of Proxima Centauri reached its climax, 8 more species formally withdrew from the hegemony, seeking either neutrality or alliance with Earth. The phrase "the humans are coming" now inspired hope among oppressed worlds rather than just fear among hegemony loyalists. Strategist Kevin Wright, who had spent months developing psychological profiles of hegemony leadership, reported to Admiral Russell after the battle. The Proxima victory is the turning point, he explained. Our intelligence indicates the hegemony is pulling back to their core systems. Their leadership is fracturing. Admiral Russell studied the star map showing human advance across what had once been unchallenged hegemony space. They've ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, she said quietly, and we've broken their hold in less than one. Kevin nodded. That's exactly why they fear us. No other species has ever challenged them so effectively, so quickly. As news of the Proxima Centauri victory spread throughout the galaxy, the tide of the war shifted irrevocably. What had begun as a human fight for survival had become a revolution that would reshape galactic civilization. Captain Michelle Anderson stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty as it approached the 4th planet of the Rigel system. Through the viewport, she could see the once mighty hegemony orbital platforms drifting powerless, disabled by Paul Harris's ingenious biological weapon. The planet below, Nilari Prime, had been under hegemony control for nearly 1,000 years. Status of ground defenses? Michelle asked her tactical officer. Neutralized, Captain. The microorganism has infected their command systems. Local. Population is already dismantling hegemony control centers. Michelle nodded with satisfaction. Begin landing operations. Remember, these people are not our enemies. They've been under hegemony occupation longer than Earth has had electricity. 2 years into the conflict that had become known as the First Human War, the mighty galactic hegemony was collapsing from within. 17 species had now formally withdrawn from the alliance, with 8 actively fighting alongside human forces. The Liberty's communications officer interrupted Michelle's thoughts. "Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Russell, Priority 1. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen, her expression serious but with a hint of triumph. "Captain Anderson, I'm diverting your task force. We've just received intelligence that the hegemony leadership has abandoned their forward command base at Centauri Delta. They're retreating to their core worlds." Michelle raised an eyebrow. "Total withdrawal? They're giving up entire sectors without a fight? Our psychological warfare is working even better than expected," Admiral Russell explained. Kevin Wright's analysis was spot on. The hegemony species have never faced an enemy like humans, unpredictable, adaptable, and willing to use tactics they consider unthinkable. On the hegemony homeworld, High Commander Zorthek faced the remnants of his once great council. Only 7 species remained loyal to the hegemony, down from the 27 that had comprised the galactic power just 2 years earlier. "We must negotiate," urged the Paxian representative. "The humans have liberated 3 more systems this week alone. Our military is in disarray." "Never!" Zorthak pounded his 4-fingered hand on the ancient council table. "The hegemony has stood for 10,000 years. We cannot surrender to primitives." "Primitives?" The Arxian counselor laughed bitterly. "Is that still how you see them? They have adapted our technology, improved upon it, and turned it against us. Our military commanders are issuing retreat orders before battles even begin." Indeed, throughout what remained of hegemony space, a new reality had taken hold. Intercepted communications revealed a military in collapse, with officers telling their troops, "If humans attack, run. Engagement is futile." Back on Earth, the newly formed coalition of free worlds was taking shape. Representatives from 23 species, former hegemony members and newly discovered civilizations, gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall in Geneva. Strategic analyst Kevin Wright presented his latest assessment to the coalition leadership. The hegemony is contracting to its 5 core worlds. Their military capability is at 20% of pre-war levels. More importantly, their psychological dominance is broken. Earth's President Maria Lopez nodded thoughtfully. "And what of the liberated worlds? How are they responding to human intervention?" "Better than expected," Kevin replied. "Captain Anderson's approach has been particularly effective. She treats former hegemony subjects as equals, not conquered peoples. Her liberation of Nalari Prime has become a model for our operations." In space, the human fleet continued its advance. The USS Liberty led a task force of 17 ships, human and alien vessels working in perfect coordination, toward the hegemony core systems. "Fleet approaching Vega sector," Michelle reported to Admiral Russell. "No resistance encountered. Receiving transmissions from 3 worlds requesting liberation assistance." The Admiral's response was thoughtful. "The war is nearly won, Captain, but what comes after may be even more challenging. Destroying the hegemony was necessary, but building something better in its place will be the true test of humanity's place in the galaxy." Michelle looked at her bridge crew, humans working alongside aliens who had been enemies just months earlier. "I think we're up to the challenge, Admiral. Humans have always been good at adapting." Throughout the former hegemony territories, statues of oppressive rulers were being toppled. In their place, a new symbol was emerging: the blue and green Earth, cradle of the species that had changed the course of galactic history in just 2 short years. General Jason Cooper stood before the massive crystal dome that had housed the Hegemony High Council for 10 millennia. Sunlight streamed through the structure, casting rainbow patterns across the ancient stone floor. Around him, representatives from 32 species waited in silence as the remaining hegemony leaders filed into the chamber. "Who would have thought," whispered Admiral Diane Russell at his side, "that after 3 years of war, it would end like this? Not with a battle, but with words." Jason nodded slightly. "Words backed by the strongest fleet the galaxy has ever seen." The Earth forces had reached the hegemony capital 2 weeks earlier, after a final push that met surprisingly little resistance. Most hegemony military commanders had surrendered their forces rather than face human ships. The once mighty empire had crumbled from within as much as from external pressure. High Commander Zorthak, now the last leader of a fallen empire, approached the central podium. His once proud stance was diminished, his 4 eyes downcast. The Galactic hegemony formally recognizes the coalition of free worlds as the legitimate government of the territories formerly under our protection, he announced, his translator conveying the defeat in his voice. We surrender unconditionally. Jason stepped forward, his expression solemn but not triumphant. Earth's leadership had agreed that this moment should not be one of gloating, but of reconciliation. The coalition accepts your surrender, Jason said clearly. All hostilities will cease immediately. No further hegemony worlds will be occupied. Your people will retain autonomy within your core systems, under observation, but not control. Surprise rippled through the hegemony delegation. They had expected harsh terms, planetary occupation, even enslavement, the same fate they had imposed on others throughout their history. You show mercy? Zorthak asked, confusion evident. Not mercy, Jason corrected. Wisdom. Humans have fought many wars among ourselves. We learned long ago that lasting peace cannot be built on humiliation and oppression. The surrender ceremony continued as Jason outlined the principles for the new galactic order. Autonomy for all worlds, collective security, technological cooperation, and respect for diverse evolutionary paths. Later, as Earth ships prepared to return home, Lieutenant Amanda Nelson supervised humanitarian efforts on worlds devastated by the war. On the planet Trell, she coordinated the distribution of food and medical supplies to a population that had suffered under hegemony retaliation. Why do you help us? Asked a young Trellian, his translucent skin showing the confusion in his circulatory system. We were your enemies. Amanda knelt to meet his eyes. No, you weren't. The hegemony was our enemy, and only because they chose to be. Your people were caught in the middle. Across former hegemony space, similar scenes played out as humanity, demonstrated that their victory would not mirror the oppression they had fought against. On Earth, celebrations were tempered with reflection. The war had cost millions of lives, human and alien alike. Yet from this tragedy, a new era of galactic cooperation had emerged. President Maria Lopez addressed the newly formed Galactic Assembly. Representatives of all known species gathered, in one place for the first time in history. Earth did not seek this war, she reminded them. We fought because we had to, but now we build because we choose to. Humanity brings to this galaxy our greatest strengths, our adaptability, our creativity, and yes, our capacity for compassion even toward those who once sought our destruction. In a quiet moment after the assembly, Zorthak approached General Jason Cooper. I have studied your species since the surrender, the former High Commander admitted. I still do not fully understand how you accomplished in 3 years what no other species attempted in 10,000. Jason considered this. Perhaps because we questioned what others accepted. Perhaps because our history taught us to never underestimate the underdog. Or perhaps because humans have always been dreamers, who reach for the stars even when told they cannot have them. Zorthak's translator conveyed a sound that might have been a sigh. The final transmission from our frontline commander, just before your forces reached our capital, said simply, we never understood what we were facing. I believe that will be remembered as the epitaph of the hegemony. As Earth ships departed for home, carrying with them representatives of new allies and friends, humanity's place in the galaxy had been transformed. The youngest spacefaring species had become the architect of a new age, feared for their potential for destruction, but increasingly respected for their capacity to build anew. The stars, once domains of an ancient empire, now shone with the promise of a future shaped by the most unexpected of galactic citizens, humans, the species that refused to run.